Good evening, all. Um, I just pushed record. I just want to talk about this while it's hot on my mind, because I might not care in a couple months. Um, but the subject is the Logan Ledger album, Golden State, which came out, I don't know, a couple months ago, I guess. Um, and I want to talk about maybe how that fits into some other things I've been thinking about. Um, you know, doesn't this isn't the best studio. It's just the guest room in our house. I just went hunting. I didn't get anything, but I was listening to the song "There Goes My Mind" off of the album and off YouTube, which he has another version on there, and I just love it. Well, let me say that people will say that music is subjective. Like, what is good or bad is totally up to the eye of the beholder or the ear of the beholder. And that's partially true, but I tend to think that there's like objective standards for some of this stuff, you know. Um, and like I like to toy around with what is the greatest this or the greatest singer or the greatest album ever or the greatest songwriter ever. Even though it is kind of subjective, it's still fun to try to categorize those things for me, you know. And I honestly, this album is strange to me because I think it's one of the greatest albums I've ever heard. You know, it really is. When um, I follow Shooter Jennings on Instagram, and a couple months ago he said, "Hey, I just produced this album. Listen to it." And I'm not somebody who listens to everything and goes try to find all the new music or whatever, but I do like music a lot, and I like Shooter Jennings, and a lot of the time I will give something a listen a little bit, maybe 5 seconds, maybe a song, maybe a couple songs, depending. But this day, I put it on. I never heard of this guy. I put it on. So far, sounds okay. Sounds okay. And this first song, Golden State, it's like I like this song. You know, it sounds good. The next song, I like this song too. The next song, I really like these songs. I listened to the whole album from start to finish. In this day and age, where the sound bite reels era of we need more, 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 fast. I haven't listened to a whole album at all ever since I could remember, and I listened to it all the way through, and then I just said I want to listen to it again because I enjoyed it so much, and so I just love it. And I go online, Twitter or Instagram or whatever, and I'll just hear like people here and there say this is the album of the year, and it's funny because it's just a few people, and um, it's I mean I think that, like, is it truly one of the great albums of all time? I don't know. Maybe not, because it's actually like one of its one of the things that I love about Logan Ledger music is that it's old fashioned, but it's not trying to be old fashioned. It just is. I really feel like he is trying to make music from his heart, and that's just the way it happens to come out. You know, like, on Spotify when you listen to something and then it starts playing something that it thinks is similar, goes on this playlist. Whenever that happens, like the music that comes on after his is just not as good. Like it's like somebody like, oh, I'm gonna sound like this, I'm gonna sound like that. And even though you could compare Logan Ledger to so many artists, he really doesn't sound like anybody in the end. He really is just sounding like himself. But the thing that I like about his music is I can tell he likes all the music I like, and he's ripping off all the people I like in a tasteful, good way. And I don't think it's an intellectual way. I think it's a creative way that every artist will rip off their, you know, people they admire. Um, One of the reasons I'm talking about how it's kind of been unrecognized. I think it's crazy that you know he had his first album produced by T-Bone Burnett, which is also a very good album. This album produced by Shooter Jennings. I mean, both these guys are like country music royalty. You almost couldn't ask for, if you're not, you know, obviously this isn't a mainstream Nashville record of Morgan Wallen or whatever. But if you were trying to make a traditional country album, you couldn't ask for a better producer. And the fact that it hasn't picked up steam, you know, uh, it doesn't seem to, indicated by the likes and comments I've seen online. It hasn't taken off, and I feel kind of bad for the guy because I can tell he loves the music by the way sometimes you can hear somebody playing something and you're like they're just working, but then you hear somebody playing some music and it's like they really feel it, and I just know I could tell. I've written music too, and I've played music, and most of you know what I mean. And so I feel kind of bad for him, and I think it's you know I've always been a fan of country music, and I like old country music. I like a lot of new stuff too. I'm not somebody who's like new country sucks. But I remember about 15 years ago, I kept saying like somebody needs to come along and just play country music because, well, not to say that Kenny Chesney isn't country. I mean, he is, sure, but there was just so much of that classic 50s, 60s, 70s sound that it's not exhausted. You could make a lot more original music with the influence. And it seemed like newer country just completely abandoned that. Like they didn't even know who Buck Owens was or whatever. And but then the people who did, like Johnny Cash or Waylon or Haggard, they were more of like the alt country people, and alt country isn't really country. I mean, well, whatever. But it's not true country. And then about, I don't know, was it about 8, 9 years ago when Sturgill started blowing up, and he kind of opened up this new avenue of not mainstream country, but not alt country, just country. And then it'll open it up for like Chris Stapleton and Tyler Childers and a lot of these folks, which is fine. It's good, and I think and so it opened it up for people like Logan Ledger, I would say, which it's not alt country, but it's also not mainstream country, and it's not even country all the way through. It's just a kind of it's California country rock, country folk rock, or something like that. Which I was born and raised in California, and all my favorite music comes from there. From Woody Guthrie to Buck Owens to Creedence Clearwater Revival to the Byrds, the Eagles, and Desert Rose Band, and even all the way up to Brian Jonestown Massacre. You could almost loosely connect all these acts, Buffalo Springfield and all that. And it's the Beach Boys. It's all kind of the same. There's similarities. They use the same producers and same musicians, and they were in the same area at the same time. And so this album is. He said he didn't mean to write an album about California, and I totally believe him. Because what I'm trying to say in this video is like, there's a difference when it comes to writing songs of intellectually saying, I'm going to write a song about California, and then just letting a song come from your heart and it happens to be about California. And I really think that's what's happening here. And I think one of the reasons it hasn't blown up, there's a couple reasons, and I think it has to do with Tyler Childers. Not that he, I mean, I like Tyler Childers' music. I'm a fan, but and not that he did anything against this album, but I think kind of indirectly, the same day that this album came out, Tyler Childers' new album Rustin' in the Rain came out, and Tyler Childers is the hot guy right now. You know, he's the man as when it comes to like traditional non-mainstream country. And that's a great album too, but I like this album more myself. And also like with Tyler Childers or Zach Bryan, the thing about these guys is like they're very influenced by emo, really. Um, which is fine, you know. But I think in the singing style, Tyler Childers and Zach Bryan have a very overly emotional, like I'm just going crazy way of singing. Whereas Logan Ledger has a very classic way of singing. He's not trying to sound like any. It sounds like he's, sometimes I don't know some of the styles of vocal that go on these days. There's like these little cliches that I can't really put my finger on. Like I could do impressions, but I'm not gonna do that. But these little things that people do, it's kind of like in the '90s how everybody sing that Ural, kind of Kurt Cobain, and they all copied him like Creed and all those bands. You know what I mean. And so now there's styles like that, and Tyler Childers and Zach Bryan actually sing in similar ways, and it's kind of like SoundCloud rappers. It's like this very emo influence, and I prefer just somebody singing straight. And I think that's one of the downsides as far as it being more widely acclaimed, is that it is just kind of straight, rather than being edgy. It's not edgy at all. It's something that I could show to skater friends or cowboy friends, and I could show to my boomer parents, and they would all probably enjoy it somewhat. And I admire that, you know. And I heard him say that he likes making music for everyone. But I would give the album a 9.5 out of 10. Um, I don't know what my favorite song is on it. It changes. Uh, there Goes My Mind. It's such a simple song. Like, I don't even know why I like it so much. It's just so pretty. Um, and the whole album really is a great album. It is one of my favorite albums I've ever heard. And it's kind of funny. I'm just a 40-year-old guy. I work in a factory in Wisconsin. It's like I'm probably not who Logan Ledger would be wanting to impress. But I'm sure he would prefer to have like wider acclaim of like younger people, and But my prediction, like, music has changed. The music industry has changed so much, and music history. And what I mean about music history is the way that we learn about music, and the criticism, like as Rolling Stone or Pitchfork, and the way that it's written about. We used to have to like pour through books if we wanted to see how like John Lennon wrote a song or something. But now we just Google it, and it's on Wikipedia, and so the way that we learn about the history of music is very much changing. But I think if it kind of doesn't change too much, I don't think this album will ever be ultra famous, but it is going to last. I think that people will reference it. I think that it's probably going to end up getting like media credits. It's probably gonna be in like a movie or a TV show, and people are gonna bring it up over the years. I think it has that power, Um, the fact that it's like you can try to be ultra unique and look like a fool, look like an idiot, and you can try to just play it safe and do something that the algorithm says works, and you also will just be boring. He's kind of not doing either of those things. He's not trying to be anybody. He it sounds like he's just trying to make music that he wants to hear. And it's music that I want to hear too, because all those influences, all those California influences are there. It's like um, the song "All the Wine in California." I was rocking out to it. I've listened to this album so many times, and I listened to that song a few times, and I was like, man, that beat bender solo is so good. Like, who did that? And I kind of started searching around, and finally, I found a live version of it on YouTube, and he's playing the beat, and it is a great solo. And that solo, it's totally, if you're familiar with the Byrds and Clarence White, it is totally a complete homage to Clarence White. It's like saying, like, hey, if you're a Clarence White fan, we both are going to enjoy this, because it's like he invented a sound that you can't really improve on. You just play that sound sometimes because it sounds so nice, and that's what he was. And he does a perfect Clarence White style guitar solo, and that's possibly my favorite part of the album, honestly. Um, and Russ Paul, the pedal steel player, man, he adds so much to this album. His tone and just his choice of fills, it goes so perfectly with the vibe. Um, it's, I mean, I enjoy that almost as much as I enjoy the rest of the aspects of um, the the voice and the lyrics. I mean, that pedal steel is just. And the cool thing is, now he's releasing all these versions of songs on the album on YouTube live, like in a live setting, and they're great. I mean, they're a little bit different, and Russ Paul plays different pedal steel licks, and it's almost like you get two versions of the same album. And I listen to the live ones just as much as the album. I should probably listen to other albums. I've been listening to this so much because I know what he's doing. I love Merle Haggard and Buck Owens and Tom Petty and the Byrds and the Beach Boys and probably other things I'm not directly picking up on, but I think maybe I don't know, it hit something in my psyche that just really resonated, and maybe that's why I can't decide if it's objectively a great album or just subjectively a great album. But I know it is objectively a very good album. Like, even my wife, when I'm playing it, she loves it. And my my uncle, from California, he's like, oh, I've never heard of this guy, but I'm a fan. He's like 75 years old. But yeah, he seems Logan Ledger in his interviews seems like a pretty nice fella. I just hope he keeps going. He should be making decent money off this album, and he's probably not. I mean, I can't buy the vinyl. I don't listen to stuff on vinyl. I would go to his show if he came to Wisconsin. Maybe I should buy the album. I don't know, but he's probably not making much money off it. He's probably not making much money at all. It probably kind of sucks, and I don't know. It would be cool to hear another album, definitely. But if not, we got this one, and this one's one of the best ever. I have faith that if he makes another album, it'll be very good as well. So yeah, 9.5 out of 10. Like I almost say I recommend listening to a couple tracks, and just like I did, if it hits you, good. But You know, I can understand how people, like, I understand what he's doing. You know, when he says, you know, I try to, when he's talking about his mind, try to keep it in line, but you know it's just a rambling kind, always looking out the back door, running like a thief in the night. That's a reference to Merle Haggard, you know. Having a predominant like pairing of Telecaster with like a sharp loud pedal steel, that is a very California setup, you know. And then the first song I would say is very Beach Boys sounding. It sounds like something from Pet Sounds. Um, and there's some other stuff on there. I mean, I wouldn't say it's all pure California country rock, but that's heavily what it is. It feels like you're in LA or San Francisco when you're listening to it. Um, and So I can understand how people, you know, that's my music. You know, I know it's not cool to like say you what your favorite kind of music is, but my favorite kind of music is West Coast music. You know, it just, I mean, I like other music too, but it just is. You know, from Mexican music to Elliott Smith. You know, in my opinion, all the best stuff comes from California, Oregon, whatever. So anyway, tell me what you think about the album. Tell me what you think about this video. And thanks for making it this long. Good night.